I really feel for her 5 children. Can you imagine the effect that's having on her family, her mother, her friends? It has to be horrific, and they think that she is dead.
It isn't supposed to be this way. She should be home with her kids, her 5 young children. She would never have left like this. Something happened, something terrible. That's what family and friends of Jennifer Dulos have been saying since the day she vanished back in May. The summer is gone now, and she is still missing. And the focus of what happened to her squarely focused on her estranged husband. You are listening to The Tape Room, a podcast on the Fox 5 Podcast Network. Here, we take a look back at the tri-state area's infamous and unsolved crimes. On this episode, the disappearance of Jennifer Dulos, the mother of 5 from the upscale community in New Canaan, Connecticut. Her disappearance, a case capturing the nation's attention for months. Our conversation now with a local reporter who's been there from the start.
Good afternoon, this is Kathy.
Hi, Kathy. This is Dan Bowens with Fox 5. How are you?
I'm great, Dan. It's nice to talk to you.
Kathy Reeks of thedailyvoice.com. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Tape Room.
Thanks, Dan.
And can you tell me just a little bit about New Canaan, Connecticut, just the town, the community, for some of our listeners who may not be too familiar with that area of the state?
Sure. New Canaan is a small town, not much crime. It's a wealthy area with very high income, and it's one of those places that has great schools and lots of parent interaction with children. It's a real friendly place.
And when we talk about wealthy community, we're talking about $1 million homes and manicured lawns, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, multi-million-dollar homes and million-dollar homes. It's certainly not your average blue-collar worker living in New Canaan.
Not a lot of violent crime. Not a lot of crime in general, I would imagine.
Oh, no. I very rarely. I mean, crime reports out of New Canaan are usually DUIs, that type of thing.
DUIs, yeah. And then all of a sudden, here we have May 24th this year, 2019. And this call comes in, and it's a report for Jennifer Dulos, a mother of 5 from Connecticut, and she's missing.
Yeah, automatically after being a crime reporter for so many years, it was like a gut in your stomach type of feeling that you knew that something was different about this crime. As soon as I heard a mother of 5 from New Canaan, her children went to New Canaan Day School, you knew something was different, and it probably wasn't going to turn out well.
So she drops her kids off at that school in the morning, and she's believed to have been driving her. It's a Chevy Suburban, and
right.
and then sort of what happens next is pretty much the mystery of how it happened, when it happened, and sort of who was with her or who's responsible.
Exactly.
And so she drives her vehicle. She drives the car to school, drop the kids off, and then her car is found later at a park nearby.
Correct. It's found at Waveney Park, in an area that's heavily traveled, and it's just sitting there. And I believe the police found it around 6 p.m. after she had been reported missing by her friends.
And at this point, investigators pretty much head over to the house, and they start looking around in the house at this point because, okay, we found the car. We've been trying to contact family and contact friends, and she's still not here. So they move on to the house?
They move on to the house, and once inside the house, they find in the garage what looks like was a struggle. They find blood splatter on another vehicle. They find what looks like someone had tried to clean up or wipe up blood, and so that they knew that some type of violent struggle had taken place in the garage.
And that's red flags right away.
Exactly. And that's when the calls became more urgent from the police. Their postings, please help us find Jennifer. We won't rest until she's found, that type of thing. It was a little bit of a change from just a regular missing person.
And that's when you start to see in this wealthy community, and you start to see the media trucks arriving. You see these vigils, and the search really is what's happening at this point. I mean, there's a big coordinated search of friends and family and people, and just sort of looking around in the area.
There are, but what's strange is it wasn't huge searches of people from New Canaan. That's how New Canaan is. I mean, this is very odd for them to have the news trucks in town, and it wasn't a bunch of family and friends out searching. It was police, and a very coordinated search by police. And the family made it very clear they didn't want any large searches. They didn't want large search parties by members of the community. They said, we want the police to handle this and to take care of it.
And what do we know about Jennifer Dulos? She was a mother of 5. I mean, we know that, but what else do we know about her?
Well, we know that she was an author. She had written a book. She was very devoted to her children and spent most of the time with her children.
Not someone who's just going to take off.
No. She's not a woman who's out having a good time at parties. This is a woman who has a close knit group of friends who are all school related, and who is very involved in her children's lives.
How quickly does the investigation sort of turn to her husband?
I think right away. I think pretty quickly. On the first day when she disappeared and police went to his house, and he refused to cooperate immediately. I can't speak for the police, but I think kind of the focus turned to him at that point.
And maybe for good reason, because then a lot of sort of strange things start to come out, not only about their history, because they've are separated, they are going through this divorce process, and some of the court records show that had become a pretty contentious process.
Oh, it was nasty. They were so estranged from each other, and barely spoke to each other. And it was very contentious when it came to visitation with the kids, that type of thing. And she had stated in the court records that she was afraid of him, and that she was afraid something would happen to her. So, it was definitely not a good situation. And the fact that he had moved his girlfriend into their former home, immediately after she moved out with her daughter, was not a good situation.
And then there starts to be some information that comes out about some really strange behavior that he has done after her disappearance, where police are able to track his cell phone sort of around the New Canaan area, traveling from his workplace back to one of the residences, and then eventually down to the Hartford, Connecticut area. Can you sort of talk me through that part of it?
Yeah, what was really interesting is how diligently the police, I'm amazed at the work that they did, the New Canaan and the Connecticut State Police, putting together surveillance videos from individual homeowners and, from their Ring doorbells or from their video surveillance cameras.
And you say ring doorbell, we're talking about those doorbells where you can physically see video of people standing at the door or outside.
Right, exactly. They also received information from school bus cameras and from downtown cameras in Hartford. And it shows a real pattern that day, a strange pattern of how he took one of his employees' cars, parked it near the park where her vehicle was found hours later, and then a couple hours later, that car is gone from the park, and her car is there in place of it, her SUV.
That's strange.
Yeah, it's really strange. The one question that hasn't been answered, and will be really interesting to find out in this case, is how did he get, if he did it, if he's guilty, from the parked truck to her house, which is about 3 miles away. They haven't said if it's on video, if anyone saw him jogging, because he is a jogger, or if anyone saw him walking through the park.
And then there's this whole business that happens down in Hartford, which New Canaan and Hartford are not, it's not like it's the next town over. I mean, it's a nice little drive, right?
Right. It's a 30-minute drive, and it's a whole different type of neighborhood. Well, Hartford's a city, a big city. And what the police did, is they were able to piece together, they pinged his phone, and they were able then to find cameras in the area of where his phone pinged in Hartford and get actual surveillance video of him stopping at more than 30 dumpsters and trash cans, dropping items out of his car, along with his girlfriend, Michelle Troconis, who's in the front seat of the truck.
That in itself is, that in a lot of cases that could be it in terms of circumstantial, because some of that stuff then comes back as potential evidence in the case. It's not like he's just dumping trash cans.
Right. They find a shirt that she was supposedly wearing that day. They find sponges, a bra, other bloody items that have her DNA on it. They also find plates, front plates to her vehicle that are stuffed down a drain.
So we're piling up the circumstantial evidence here, and physical evidence. As well. Except for maybe they haven't found the body. That's the big key here.
That is the big key. That's the big key.
And on June 1st, all the alarm bells start ringing, newsrooms across the country pretty much, because this case, this missing mother from Connecticut, has become a nationwide case, and there's an arrest. But it's not for what people were expecting.
No, it really wasn't. It was for, tampering with evidence. And
we're talking
prosecution, right?
We're talking about Fotis Dulos and his then girlfriend, Michelle Troconis. These are the two who are arrested. And what are they arrested for?
For tampering with evidence and hindering prosecution. And I think that and that is in connection with the items that they dropped off in Hartford. And
but they don't charge him with a capital crime. They don't charge him with homicide at this point, and they're free to go. She makes bond and he makes bond.
Right, and they are both wearing ankle bracelets and to monitor their movements, and they're free to go. And then comes the whole episode with the truck that I talked about earlier, his employee truck. And Michelle Troconis had actually gotten together with a state attorney and had apparently revealed some information that had not been revealed before, with that he had picked up the truck, that she didn't really know where he was that morning, as she had said before, that she had basically lied to police, and that there was blood, Jennifer's blood, found in his employee's truck.
And that's big. That comes out in a new set of court documents that have sort of, this is happening in steps. She vanishes. 7 days later, he's arrested. But all that's back in June, and then this is we're talking September, end of August by the time some of this information starts to come out.
Correct. Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
In that information,
it was so detailed, that information in the arrest warrant, about really how they think this crime how they think it happened, how he drove the truck to the park and parked it near the park, how then her truck appears, how there's blood in his employee's truck. That was really the turning point when they arrest him again. But it's for tampering with evidence.
And so that's the next part where he's arrested with his girlfriend the first time for tampering with evidence, allegedly. Then the summer passes basically, and by early September he's arrested again. And what is he arrested for again?
For the same thing, for the exact same crimes. Because of the new evidence found in the truck, the blood, Jennifer's blood found in his employee's truck.
And so here we have a mountain of this circumstantial evidence. Why don't you think that they've taken a next step? I mean, it seems like, in maybe other cases you would have already had an arrest for an alleged homicide. Do you have any sort of sense of why that hasn't happened in this case?
I think they really want to tie this case up. He seems to have money to pay for expensive attorneys. And I think they want to have, everything tied up nicely before they take that final step and charge him with homicide. He keeps professing his innocence and that, he loves and misses his children. And I think the police are being extra careful.
And he has done about two interviews, two sit-down television interviews, where he is very guarded and obviously has his attorneys nearby. Fotis Dulos is a well-known real estate developer, big money properties. Has
right.
Commercials that air up there. I mean, he's somewhat well known in certain circles, and he's sitting down for one or two interviews where he adamantly denies that he has any involvement in this.
Yeah, and he actually says that he expects her. I was really surprised when he said he actually expects her to knock on somebody's door and to show up on his last interview with Dateline. That was a very interesting comment, and that he does believe that she's alive, but he is very guarded, and I find it interesting the way he never looks directly at the camera and those types of things. But of course, he's, as far as anyone's concerned right now, he's an innocent man.
And at this point, Jennifer Dulos is still missing.
Yes, she is. And I really feel for her 5 children. Can you imagine the effect that's having on her family, her mother, her friends? It has to be horrific. And they think that she is dead. I mean, her mother's attorney, Andrew Bowman, said last week that the family believes that Jennifer is dead.
Well, there's definitely a lot more to come here. Kathy Reeks with thedailyvoice.com, covering crimes all over the tri-state, and certainly this case in New Canaan. Thank you so very much for joining us here on the Tape Room.
It was a pleasure speaking with you, Dan.
And since we recorded that interview, Michelle Traconis, the girlfriend of Fotis Dulos, has appeared again in court. She didn't enter a plea to an additional charge of tampering with evidence. Much more to come. The Tape Room is part of the Fox 5 Podcast Network. I'm your host, Dan Bowens. This episode was recorded, edited, and mixed by Matt Onimus. Our executive producers are myself, Matt Onimus, and Ahmad Asghar. Byron Harmon is Vice President of Fox 5 News, and Lou Leone is Vice President and General Manager. Stay tuned for the next episode of The Tape Room.